Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Yonkers Voice. We're sitting here with Yonkers Judge Hopeful Evan Inlaw, successful attorney in Yonkers. Evan, I'd like to ask you a couple questions today, mainly about what the city court functions are, what do they mean to the citizens of Yonkers, and what brings you to the poll?
Okay. Hello, I'm Evan Inlaw, and I am running for city court judge here in the city of Yonkers. And the city court is the only court in the New York State that actually sits within the jurisdiction of Yonkers, which sits in the city of Yonkers. We have many different courts in the state system, but the city court is the local court. That's the place where citizens in this city will go for things like small claims. If you have a traffic offense, you would go to the city court. If you need to evict a tenant, or if you're being evicted, you would be in the city court. Criminal defense, people who are arrested, all arrests, whether they're serious felonies or just violations of the law, would start in the city court.
Evan, tell me, when you say, why is this an elected position? Why can't a judge just be a judge?
Well, there are two ways in which generally people become judges in this country in general. Under some circumstances they can be appointed, and under other circumstances they would be elected. Whether or not a judge would be elected or appointed is basically by law. The legislature sits down and decides almost arbitrarily which positions would be one that's filled by appointment and which one would be elected. One of the good things about having a judge elected is that the people get a chance to decide who they would like to see sitting in the court, as opposed to political insiders who have power, and they're the only ones who decide who gets put in those spots. So you could have, for example, you could have the good old boys network, where if you have power, political connections, you'll end up as a judge and no one else has a shot. But when you have an elected position like the one I'm running for, it's possible for someone who is not an insider, someone who's not a political hack, someone who, the people, who has more of a connection with the people who will be coming to that court, it's possible for that person to actually get the position.
Tell us, what would you do differently in the city court? That's, how would you run the city court differently than it's being run now if you're elected? How would you best fit in? What changes do you think you could effectuate? And what do you see as a problem going on right now, aside from the Good Old Boys Club, aside from some of those things that are obvious to people like myself who might be in the court a lot? Can you tell the citizens of Yonkers what it is that you're going to do differently?
Well, a person who is running for a position as a judge, essentially there are some restrictions in what you can say and what you can't say as a person who's running for court. What I can say is that as a judge, I will be fair and honest. I think that as a judge, you want to listen to both sides and make a decision based upon all the facts and circumstances in front of you and objectively apply the law. But I will say this, that all of the judges sitting in the Yonkers City Court, and there are presently 6 judges sitting there, all of them have been elected by the people to sit in that position. And I will just add this, just to say that recently, the reason why I'm running now is that the legislature from New York State added a 7th judge position. So this is a vacant slot, and I'm looking to fill that slot.
And does a judge run on any particular line? Do they run on a Republican line, a Democrat line, or a Helping Families line. What line, is there a line, number one? And if there is, what line would you be running on?
There are lines. In the city of Yonkers, there is the Democratic line, the Republican line, there's the Working Families, Independents, and the Conservative line. So there are 5 lines that you could potentially be running on in the city of Yonkers. I'm running on the Democratic line. I'm the candidate for the Democratic Party. And I also have a second line known as the Working Families line. I'll be running on that line as well.
So you'll have 2 lines at the ballot?
Yes.
And when do people go out and vote?
And November the 4th is election day. That'll be the day that I'll be asking everybody to come out and vote.
And Evan, currently, how many African American or minorities are sitting on the Yonkers City courts, on the benches of the Yonkers City courts?
None presently.
None presently?
Right.
Okay. So, folks, it's probably important to know that the last time we've had African American judges or minorities on the seat was in 1984, 1985, when the city of Yonkers were forced through desegregation to put a minority on the bench. To make things fair and equal. Just in 2007, we've actually had our first female judge elected. Evan, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, you know, I'm well aware of Judge West, who was the first African American judge in the City Court of Yonkers. And then there was Judge Tolbert, who came shortly after him. Both of them were elected as Republicans. And most recently, we had Judge Scatteretico-Neighbor. She is the first woman elected to the City Court judge in 2007. All were very fine judges and elected by the people. And I look forward to following in that tradition. But I will note this, that I would be the first Democrat African American elected as a Democrat in the entire history of the city of Yonkers.
In short, folks, get out there and vote.
Thank you.
Well, listen, Evan, it was real nice talking to you. Do you have any last words for the camera?
The only thing I would say is that I like my candidacy for the city court judge. Because I believe that I will bring I think that I'll be as fair and just as the judges sitting there, but I think that my presence by itself will lend a perception to that court. That when people go there, that I believe that they will feel that there will be a greater chance that they will receive justice by my presence in that court. And I think it'll be a benefit to everybody in the city of Yonkers, as well as the other judges in the city court.
Well, thanks very much for joining us on another edition of the Yonkers Voice. We wish you a lot of luck, Evan. Do you need, by the way, a petition signed, or to run on this ballot, or is this already done?
Petition phase is over.
Petition phase is over. There you have it, folks. Evan Inlaw's going for Democratic on the Democratic line, and the Independent Working Families line on the now 7th judge in the city of Yonkers. Evan, we wish you a lot of luck, and thank you for taking the time for coming on the show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.